McLaren has set such a high bar that other teams are now questioning if their car is even legal. At first people thought McLaren's car had a flexible front wing, something Red Bull and Ferrari plan to check out after the Austin race. But now attention has shifted to the back of the car, specifically the rear wing of the MCL38. During the Baku race, there was some suspicious movement spotted on the DRS flap of Piastri's car. It looked like it was almost opening under high-speed pressure. This has stirred up a lot of new concerns. Is McLaren following the rules? And if not, is it too late for the FIA to step in? It's clear that McLaren is the team to beat for the rest of 2024. They've now taken the lead in the Constructors' Championship, making it nearly impossible for Red Bull or Ferrari to catch up. With only 4 wins this year, many fans are amazed that McLaren is in the race for both championships. The secret to their success lies in their car upgrades. Since they started making improvements in Miami, their car has been performing like a true championship contender. However, missed opportunities in Spain, Canada and Silverstone have cost them valuable points. Despite this, McLaren is still in the hunt, though Norris trails Verstappen by 59 points. In the second half of the season, starting particularly from the Zandvoort race, McLaren unveiled a new racing package that was nearly unbeatable. Norris made a big statement by winning on Verstappen's home turf, finishing a full 21 seconds ahead of him. Meanwhile, Piastri notched a victory in Baku, skillfully holding off Leclerc for a solid 30 laps without the help of DRS. Now, it's that part Piastri's win without DRS that we'll focus on in most of this video. Normally, lack of DRS in Baku against a strong car is almost a guaranteed loss. The long straight stretch, just over 2 kilometers, can be lethal if you don't have a tow or DRS, especially when a car behind benefits from an open flap, giving it an extra speed boost of 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. Piastri overtook Leclerc on lap 20, and many expected the Monegasque driver to quickly reclaim his position by staying within a second behind Piastri. Surprisingly, that didn't happen. There's some fascinating evidence showing how the DRS flap, a part of the rear wing of the MCL38, behaves under certain conditions, like when the car picks up speed. The purpose of the DRS flap is to reduce drag when it's open, which helps the car go faster. Normally, to activate this flap, the car has to be less than a second behind another car. In one instance, even though there was no car ahead of Piastri, the DRS flap started to rotate as he accelerated out of turn 16. A close-up image lets you compare the DRS flap when it's not under maximum speed load versus when it is. It appears that the MCL38 can almost use a semi-DRS effect even without another car in front. Leclerc struggled to challenge Piastri for over 30 laps, despite having a faster car and a stronger overall performance throughout the weekend. The Monegasque driver failed to turn his pole position into a win. If we look closely at Leclerc's car, we can see some wing flexibility and rotation, but it's nowhere near as pronounced as what's seen on the McLaren. McLaren recently drew attention for their flexible front wing, which moves under certain conditions, a feature that's against the rules. However, when the FIA investigated, they gave a rather unclear response. They said it's currently legal, and even if it wasn't, they couldn't enforce any changes for the rest of 2024. So if we notice a big shake-up in 2025, it would mean McLaren found a clever loophole in the rules that not only let them compete, but also likely win one of the 2 major championships. Looking closely, we'll see that the speed difference with the DRS flap open versus closed is smallest on the MCL38 and largest on the RB20. This indicates that McLaren's DRS flap is the most flexible on the grid. While this flexibility isn't necessarily against the rules, the FIA should definitely investigate it because it allowed Piastri to hold off Leclerc for such a long time, almost like having a mini DRS advantage. The FIA's stance on front wings has pushed both Red Bull and Ferrari to follow McLaren's lead. In Austin, we'll likely see more flexible front wings on the RB20 and S24. This was confirmed by both Horner and Vasseur, who pointed fingers not only at McLaren but also at Mercedes for having such wings, arguing that this was strictly against the rules with no exceptions. Last year, Red Bull faced a similar situation when they were accused of overusing the plank beyond the allowed limit. However, when new rules were introduced at Spa, it didn't affect their dominance at all. Interestingly, the team behind the accusations, Mercedes, saw a drop in their own performance, essentially shooting themselves in the foot. Now, all eyes are on the FIA's take on the rear wing movements of the MCL38. This team has kept up with their upgrades while others have struggled. Red Bull, for instance, chose a very different path with their car, and Ferrari and Mercedes have both hit obstacles with their upgrades. According to Andrea Stella, the reason for their steady progress isn't just their recent technical restructuring, but also their patience in the upgrade process. We haven't brought us a significant upgrade since Miami, Stella mentioned. The next significant upgrade, though not as major as the one in Miami, was introduced in Zandvoort. This wasn't a massive change to the entire floor of the car, but rather a small tweak. We've been cautious with rolling out some updates because we want to be sure that when tested in full scale on the actual car, they perform as expected. Taking our time ensures that the developments are mature and reliable enough for race conditions. It's also important to highlight that McLaren has an advantage. They can spend the most time in the wind tunnel among the top 4 teams, thanks to finishing 4th in last year's Constructors' Championship. This allows them to thoroughly test their upgrades. In contrast, Red Bull faces limitations due to a sporting penalty. They have restricted wind tunnel time and they're working in a facility that's already 70 years old. Meanwhile, McLaren is making strides in their brand new wind tunnel in Woking, guided by their revamped technical team with experienced engineers like Rob Marshall and Peter Prodrumo at the helm. It's going to be fascinating to see how other teams react. As the saying goes, if you can't beat them, join them, and teams might adopt this mindset starting from Austin. Horner has hinted at introducing a much more flexible front wing, which could shake things up. But thinking that all of the RB20's missing speed is just about the front wing is a bit of a stretch. Verstappen himself has pointed out that the car has performance issues in several areas, and solving these problems won't happen overnight. McLaren's main concern now is whether Norris is ready to compete with Verstappen for the championship. In a race aimed at minimising damage in Baku, Norris managed to finish ahead of Verstappen and clawed back 3 points. However, if his performance had been better on Saturday, the gap might have been even narrower. With all the debate swirling around the car's technical aspects, it will be fascinating to see if the FIA steps in and how they might do it. Looking back at recent events, the FIA hasn't always been clear. Take the case of the flexing front wing on the MCL38, for instance. They never really gave a straight answer about whether McLaren's design was within the rules. Given all this, do you think McLaren's car screams illegal from every angle? And if that's the case, do you believe there's a chance to put a halt to this before the season wraps up? Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. See you in the next video.